This is the second to last video in this section of linear equations. We're going to talk about the point slope formula, which is the most general formula. If you're given 2 points or a slope and a point, you could find the equation of any line with that uses that information. So if you recall, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that's when we know what 2 points are. If I suppress my subscripts on one of my points, then I would say that that point is a variable. So I don't know what this is. I just know it's an x value and a y value, and it's on that line. So if I change my formula from y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 and change it to y minus y1 over x minus x1, I get this contraption, and it's useful if I multiply both sides by this denominator of x minus 1. So I'm going to multiply both sides by x minus 1, and I'm going to get m times x minus 1, or x minus x1, is y minus y1. And if I switch the order to y minus y1 is m times x minus x1, I get this formula that many of us have probably seen in a previous math class, and that is the slope intercept. I'm sorry, the point slope formula. And you're going to need to memorize that. So let's talk about how to use this. So really quick, do a few examples. So one, we're given m is 3 and point of -5, 1. So if we're given a slope of 3 and a point -5, 1, I recommend writing the formula every time you use it, and it'll help you memorize it. So I'm going to get y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. And we know what m is. That's x1, y1. So we're going to plug those in accordingly. We have to pay attention to our signs. So y minus 1 is 3 times x minus -5. Let's clean that up. Y minus 1 is 3 times x plus 5. Y minus 1 is 3x plus 15. And finally, y is 3x plus 16. And that is the equation of that line that has slope of 3 and passes through -5, 1. Sometimes we're not given a slope, but we're given 2 points. If we're given 2 points, we can compute a slope. So our first step is we need to find a slope first. And so that is m is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so we're going to do -2 minus 3 and -1 minus 2. So mind your signs. And it's going to give me a -5 on top and a -3 on the bottom. So it's going to be a -5/3. So my slope is -5/3, which means, I'm sorry, a +5/3, because that was negative divided by negative. And we need to use a point, and it doesn't matter which point. So I'm going to snag 2, 3, and I'm going to be scrolling. So we're not going to see 2, 3 anymore. I'm going to bring my work over to here. So let's see. I have 2, 3, and M is 5/3. So that's just good practice anyway. So let's do that. Y minus Y1 is M times X minus X1 because I got to use that formula again. Now let's start plugging and chugging. So Y minus 2 is 5/3. Oh, make sure you're plugging the right things in. That's X1 and Y1. Y minus 3, my apologies. X minus 2, there we go. Now I'm happier. Well, not quite. We have to work with this fraction over here, but we'll get through that. So that's Y minus 3 is 5/3 X minus 10/3 because 5 times -2 is -10/3. I'm sorry, 5/3 times -2 is -10/3. Now, in order to put this in slope-intercept form, which is usually the form we want to work with, add 3 to both sides. Which means I have to work with that fraction over there because we need to clean this up. -10/3 plus 3. Well, that's y is 5/3 x minus 10/3 plus 9/3. And I get y is 5/3 x minus 1/3 for my final answer. So that is how you find a point, use 2 points to find the line. Now, there's a couple special cases. If we have an undefined slope, this formula does not work. So if you're given something like, let's see, 1, 5 and 1, -3, and you compute the slope, and you get undefined, this is a vertical line that passes through x equals 1. So my x value is always going to be 1. So I get my equation that way. Would be my equation, and I can't get that by using the point slope formula. I have to make the observation that, hey, wait a minute, undefined slope means it's a vertical line. It means that my my x value is always going to be fixed, and my y value, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's going to be all the y values, and it's going to be that vertical line that's parallel to the y-axis. And when it comes to zero slope, if m 0, then you're going to get stuck with a y equals whatever the y coordinate of the y-intercept is. And that happens when you have the y values the same. So if I have like 3, 2, and 5, 2, and I compute my slope, and if you do the computation of that, you're going to get y equals 0. And you can plug everything in, and you could use a formula for this, but it's not necessary because I have my y value is not changing. And if I recognize that, I'm going to get a y equals 2 for my equation. But if I want to plug and chug, let's pick that point right there with my slope of 0. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1, and that gives me y minus 2 is 0 times x minus 3. 0 times x minus 3 is just 0. And if I clean this up, that's going to give me y equals 2 with just a little bit of work. But if you recognize that either your x value or y value aren't changing and you're given 2 points, you should be able to come up with the equation just by looking. That's if you choose to do it that way. I will be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines in the next video. I'll see you there.